Let's talk about social and economic rights. These are the answer to the natural rights that Franklin Delano Roosevelt put into words during his presidency in the Second World War. Well, beginning of Second World War, and then during the Second World War. Several things were going on. Among other things, he was wrapping up some of the thinking and the ideas of the progressives, the philosophical progressives that pretty much dominated the world at that time. Progressives, for instance, progressive thinking is very closely related to communism that took root at the end of World War I. Woodrow Wilson was a big progressive. Some of the ideas of the progressives are that we don't only have the right to life, liberty, and property. We have the right to a good life. Not just life, but a good life. So you'll see in a progressive list of human rights the dignity of human beings. So what does it mean that human beings have a certain dignity? It means that they should be supported in living in a specific fashion, not just being alive, not being able to roam the fields, hunting and gathering, but to have a mansion to go back to, right, at the end of the day, to keep rain from falling on their heads. So it's an idea of the quality of life. So the dignity of human beings. The core ideas that these rights focus on ensuring a decent standard of living. Standard of living. That sounds like a good one, doesn't it? In America, for instance, we have very rich and we have the very poor. Did you know that the very poor in America are richer than the very rich in most of the rest of the world? The poor are always going to be with us, particularly because we measure them as being the bottom side of a moving range. So that range could get bigger or can get smaller. In any case, the bottom is always going to be there. That's always going to be the poor relative to the rich in that particular calculation. When the social and economic rights were listed first by FDR in his speeches to the Democratic Party and then to the people of the United States, he said that we should be entitled to a good wage. We should be entitled to health care, whether we can afford it or not, to education to a certain level, to housing, to have enough good food for farmers, to have good money paid to them for the food that they produce. We should have work. Everybody should have a job, and we should have Social Security available to everybody. Those things are what he considered to be social or economic rights. And he thought these rights were actually more important than the natural rights, life, liberty, and property, that were actually listed in the Declaration of Independence and assumed into the Constitution of the United States. FDR never did get any document that replaces natural rights with the social and economic rights that he came up with his four freedoms, like freedom from want, right, from needing anything, that kind of stuff. And all those things are nice things, but they were not things, they were not rights that were given to us from God. We have the right from God to life. We have the right from FDR to a certain standard of life or quality of life to support the inherent dignity of every human being. The difficulty with that, of course, is that if a government can tell you that you have the right to a certain standard, they can tell you in bad times that, well, a government can't afford that. You now have the right to a little bit lower standard, or raising the standard. They can change that standard. Those rights are completely within the control and adjustment ability of the government. They don't come from God, right? It's not something that people would fight and die for, like freedom, right? Think of, who's the guy, the Scot that died? Braveheart. Yeah, Braveheart, who died for the natural rights, God-given rights of freedom. So, um, the social and economic rights require a government in order to fulfill those rights, to manifest these rights, or at least to make the manifestation possible. The government has to, first of all, steal from the people, take their money in taxes, and then take the money that they've pooled from taxing all the individuals and then give it back to them in the form of some of the things that they have rights to, like education and food, work, right? Stuff like that, minimum wage, that kind of stuff. So it involves the government intervening in the life of its population to decide who gets what. It's a wealth distribution program. All welfare programs are based upon the government taking the wealth of the nation and distributing it to those people that need that wealth more than other people. It's wealth redistribution. Taking from the rich, giving to the poor, which sounds like a wonderful thing to do on a personal level. We definitely want people that live charitably. The question is whether it's the job of government to do that. Well, that's a good question. I have my little phone here. My little phone works very, very well, and it's connected to my iPad, and it's connected to my MacBook, and it's connected to my iMac. All of the Apple interweaving of all of these different platforms makes the iPhone even more powerful than it was. It even connects to my watch, right? Even it's an iWatch. I didn't get it from the government. Government cannot make anything well, right? We have had the experience in the United States where we are able to actually drive around or see people driving around cars called Yugos, cars made in or by Yugoslavia. I don't know whether they were government, but Yugoslavia at the time was a communist nation, and their cars sucked. They were the worst cars on the road. They went as fast as you could possibly run, pushing them down the road. Well, government doesn't do anything well, except maybe provide protection and security. Policing and military, those are great functions of government, doing whatever's necessary to keep us secure from the bad people of the world, internally to our country and externally, people coming from outside of our country. And maximizing our natural rights. Those would be the basic functions of a very small government. Social and economic rights suggest that the government should not be small. It should be huge, huge. I mean, really huge, so that it can take the money from the people and redistribute it, doing everything for the people, making their decisions. Which toothpaste they should be brushing their teeth with in the morning. I visited a friend in Mongolia, right? Good friend, good country, great country, actually. But as of 1996, Mongolia was no longer within the communist circle of the Soviet Union. Well, Soviet Union didn't exist at that time, but Russia no longer had any power over Mongolia. And Mongolia took off like a rocket. They started having all kinds of market sensitive development in the economy, and it got to be pretty good. They've got some stores there that have some of the most modern stuff that you would want to get anywhere in the world. Right now, it's all pretty good. Some of the old folks there, they'd say, "Well, there's too much to choose from." I'd rather have it so that there's only one loaf of bread to buy, and they can stand in line to get that with all of their friends. Maybe that was their meeting place. Who knows? I don't know if they served coffee outside of those bakeries that serve the government breads. But government doesn't do anything well. It's not their job. It's not their function. At least for the conservatives looking at natural rights. Social and economic rights people, however, they would say it is the government's job to be serving up all of these things. So it's based upon the collective interests of the people. What are the rights not of the individuals, which is a natural rights thinking, but what are the rights of the group, the people, the individuals that are part of the group of this particular society? Group rights. So think of the first tier rights as natural rights, the second tier rights as social and economic rights that involve a big government taking money from the people and redistributing it through welfare programs to other people. And not well, but doing that in the name of the people and in the name of rights. So, rights of indigenous people to self-determination, rights of linguistic minorities to use their language, rights of women to equality and freedom from discrimination, rights of LGBTQ, all of these things, these can be associated with some of the work of the social and economic rights. But at heart, the social and economic rights are all about making sure people have a job and that that job pays enough to keep a roof over their head, and that if they cannot afford the roof over their head, the government will step in and build places specifically for them, right? That is what social and economic rights are all about. Okay, we'll talk about the third tier of rights, which is group identity rights, in our next video. Talk to you soon.